last story for tonight here is a dual zone ATC truck. Complaint on this one is it's not cold enough again, and it makes a ticking noise. This truck was tested at about an 80-degree ambient day. The HVAC was found to operate on all modes, but when the technician brings it back in the truck, he hears a ticking noise from under the dash. He goes in and checks for DTCs. He finds a P0229 set in the HVAC system, and the definition is recirculation, position feedback circuit range performance. This code will set if the door position count is greater than 250 or less than 5, or if the actuator fails the calibration test. So if we take a look at the schematic for this thing, we're going to see it's a pretty good eye chart on this display. But what I'm going to do is to zoom in here real quick. And since the DTC is related to the recirculation actuator, I'm just going to go through and pin out the circuit real fast. The first circuit I want to call your attention to is here. This is used for the ground, for both the position sensor that's inside the actuator and for the logic control module, which controls the motor position. So this is our ground. This wire here that comes up this way is going to the HVAC control module. This is a junction block, by the way, and this is going to be the good old reference. Okay, so we got a potentiometer, we got to have a reference, and we got to have a ground. We have a power input which comes off a HVAC fuse, and it comes down this way and goes in to the HVAC actuator. And then we have our control circuit right here, which goes and speaks to the logic box that's inside of this actuator. So just to review, we have a motor that's being controlled by a controller inside of the actuator, and the controller is getting a command value from the HVAC control module, and then the HVAC control module is identifying whether or not the motor is reacting properly by monitoring the recirculation door position sensor signal. Now, you know, this stuff that I'm drawing, the schematic, always makes it look like that actuator is sitting right there, and the module is sitting right next to it, about an inch away. But obviously, been under the hood under the dash of a car, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. But once we know how this thing's supposed to work, at least we have some idea on how this might set this range or performance code. Now, there's another series of codes that are available for this door, which are circuit codes, and those would set if the thing was open or shorted or not connected. So we don't have one of those. So that kind of helps us infer that perhaps we're not dealing with an electrical problem, but we're dealing with some sort of a physical problem where the device is not moving to the proper location. So we're going to use our scan tool to test this thing bidirectionally, and the technician grabs the scan tool and commands the recirculation door actuator with the scan tool from its lowest extreme to its highest extreme, and he watches the data pin, and the counts track normally 8 at the lowest to about 245 at the highest. Now this is within reasonable values, and right now as he moves the motor back and forth through its range of motion, it functions normally, and at this point he's got a situation where the problem is not occurring right now. Now the problem might be heat sensitive. It's only about 80 degrees. Now a lot of guys, when they run into one of these, find that if they recalibrate the system at this point, that they drive the truck around, everything feels great, sounds great, and the ticking noise goes away. And that'll work until the next time the temperature gets really hot and cools down again or something, and the door does, whatever is setting the code, whatever those conditions are recreated, and the door perhaps sticks in a particular position and resets the code. So recalibration of the doors is not the answer to these types of codes. So as he's diagnosing this thing, one of the steps that you always want to perform when you're dealing with something that has a code for an electronic device is to see if there's a TSB. And sure enough, there's a TSB for intermittent ticking noise, poor AC performance, and includes a BO229 DTC. So the TSB says that this means that you've got an indication of a door over travel condition. So the door is going too far in one direction or another. When he goes onto the GM calibration website, which is available to anyone that wants to go there, if you've got a way to read the HVAC controller number with a scan tool, you can go to the website and put in the service information about the vehicle, and then find out if there are new calibrations available. And in this case, there is, in fact, calibration available for the HVAC control head that is listed right here, and it states that it's going to improve the operation of airflow doors. So you've got to, at that point now, you've got to have a tool that can flash the car, and you also have to have a subscription to the TIS2Web ability to reflash or reprogram, and it's an all-module type subscription. So because we're not dealing with an engine control computer here. So there is a flash, but in some cases it's been reported that the flash does not actually fix this problem. On 2003, 2007 full-size GM trucks, they do have a revised housing in some cases, and in other cases what some techs have figured out to do is this is the up top side of the recirculation door, but what they'll do is they'll dismantle the evaporator housing, and on the inside where the door, as you can see here, the foam of the door, where the door would normally come up, rotate up, they put foam tape right in this area right here. And what that does is it keeps the door from coming all the way up and getting stuck. And so that's another solution for this. So, you know, I never didn't, you know, the days here where you're going to have an AC complaint and it's going to be a totally, you know, you can fix it with a flash. You can have a vibrating AC belt. You can have a groaning noise coming out of the air conditioner. You can have an engine stalling when you have the AC on, and you can have a whole variety of symptoms for HVAC that you're going to be able to fix by flashing a module in the vehicle to make it program it differently.